Welcome to Quick Tips for Improving the Accessibility of Microsoft Word Documents. Brought to you by the National Clearinghouse of Rehabilitation Training Materials, NCRTM. Let's begin with an overview of why accessibility is important. Accessibility helps all people, with and without disabilities, perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with electronic information to allow everyone to be active, contributing members of the digital world. Accessibility is also a legal requirement under Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act for federal government agencies and the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, for any organization that provides electronic information on publicly accessible websites. Federally funded entities must follow these legal accessibility requirements. Learning objectives. Microsoft Word provides accessibility features to assist in building accessible documents. This video will cover these features, which include headings and styles, font styles, alternative text descriptions, color contrast, bullets and lists, accessible tables, descriptive links, as well as the accessibility checker in Microsoft Word. Let's review these features. Headings and styles. Let's start with headings and styles. Headings structure the document into sections to help readers understand the organization of the content contained within the document. Heading levels can also be used to indicate if there are subsections within particular sections of the document. Headings and heading levels help readers, including those with disabilities who use assistive technology devices, more easily navigate through the content. When creating a document, it is important to use built-in document styles and assign appropriate heading levels. It is good practice to use heading 1 once, such as the document title. Microsoft Word's built-in title style is not recognized by many assistive technology devices and should not be used. If the document has multiple heading levels, ensure they follow a proper heading level order. Where possible, use heading levels in numerical sequence. As with an outline, never skip heading levels. For example, an incorrect heading structure would be heading 1, heading 3, heading 2, heading 4. A correct heading structure would be heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. To assign a heading, select the text you want to assign, then locate the built-in Headings tool in the top navigation bar in the Home tab under Styles. Select the heading level you wish to assign to the selected text. Font. Font styles are also important when keeping accessibility in mind. Fonts should be easy to read. Sans serif fonts should be used over serif fonts. Serif fonts have a decorative lines or tails on their letters that make them more difficult to read, whereas sans serif fonts have clean, simple lines which are easier to read. The most accessible fonts are Tahoma, Calibri, Helvetica, Arial, Verdana, and Times New Roman. Font sizes should generally be kept between 12 and 18 point. Alternative text descriptions. Be sure to also add alternative text or alt text on images and/or indicate which images are decorative in the document to ensure they are accessible. Alt text describes the appearance or function of images. Informative images are those that add to the context of a page. If the image is essential to the overall message of the page, then these images are informative and need alt text. Alt text conveys this information to readers who use assistive technology devices. To assign alt text, select the image you want to assign, then locate the Picture Format tools in the top navigation bar. Select the alt text option. Once the alt text window appears, Add 1 to 2 detailed sentences to describe the image and its context. Avoid including phrases such as an image of or a picture of, as these phrases do not provide any meaningful information to the reader. Instead, try to describe the setting, the actions or interactions, the subject or subjects in detail, and/or other relevant information. Non-informative images, for example shapes or borders that are purely decorative. These images do not provide any information that add context to a page. To mark these images as decorative, select the Mark as Decorative option in the alt text window. Color usage. Proper use of color is important to ensure the document is accessible. Color should not be used as the only visual means of conveying information, indicate an action, prompt a response, or distinguish a visual element. For example, graphs may need textured patterns to represent data sets, or important information should have an additional textual representation such as an asterisk. Color contrast is also important. Color contrast is the difference in brightness between foreground and background colors in the document. The greater the difference between the foreground and background colors, the more easily readers, particularly those with low vision, can tell them apart from one another. Effective use of color that provide enough contrast will ensure that content is readable, accessible, and appealing. You will want to verify that text colors or visuals such as charts, graphics, or images in the document have enough color contrast ratio compared to their background colors. There must be a minimum contrast ratio of 4.5 to 1. Downloadable and web browser tools are available to help determine if the text color or visuals in the document have enough color contrast ratio. One example of a downloadable tool is the Color Contrast Analyzer tool, which can be found at www.tpgi.com/color-contrast-checker. One example of a web browser tool is the WebAIM Contrast Checker, located at www.webaim.org/resources/contrast checker. These links are available in the YouTube description below. Bullets and lists. Use the built-in list tool to create bulleted or numbered lists within the document to ensure lists are structured so they can be read by assistive technology devices. To assign a list, select the text you want to assign, then locate the built-in list tool located in the navigation bar Home tab under Paragraph. Select whether you want a bulleted or numbered list. Accessible tables. Keep tables in the document simple to ensure accessibility. A simple table has data cells that only relate to one row and/or column header. In other words, no cells are split or merged within the table. Additionally, there must be a value in each cell in order for the table to be fully accessible. Add tables and format them using the Microsoft Word built-in table tools. Locate the Insert Table tool. This table tool is located in the navigation bar within the Insert tab. Once the Insert tab is selected, locate the Insert Table tool under Tables. Select Insert Table. The Insert Table window will appear. Under Table Size, select the number of columns and rows that you want. Next, you will want to define the header row for the table. The header row acts as a title for the type of information readers will find in each column. Select the first cell in the table. The Tables Tool tab will appear in the top navigation bar with two subtabs, Table Design and Layout. In the Tables Tool tab, select the subtab Layout. Then select Properties. The Table Properties window will appear. In the Table Properties window, select the Row tab. Under Options, unselect the Allow Row to Break Across Pages option. Then, select the Repeat as Header Row at the top of each page option. Select OK. You have now defined your header row. Descriptive and unique links. If the document includes links, make sure they have meaningful descriptions and are unique from one another to ensure accessibility. Make sure the links are clear and descriptive. For example, if providing a link to the ed.gov homepage, do not provide vague phrases like "click here," as this does not inform the reader where they will be directed if they select the link. Rather, use a phrase like, "For more information, visit the ed.gov homepage." Make sure all links are unique to distinguish them from one another throughout the document. Readers who use assistive technology devices access links in multiple ways. When the same link description is used in multiple places, readers cannot differentiate them from one another. Microsoft Word's Check Accessibility tool. Once you have completed the document, use the built-in accessibility checker to check your work. The accessibility checker is a great tool to identify many issues, but remember to manually check the document, as the checker can provide false positives. Sometimes the checker will indicate the document has no accessibility issues when in fact the document is inaccessible. To run the accessibility checker, navigate to the File tab, select Info, select Check for Issues, then select Check Accessibility. The checker may display the following types of information. Errors. Content that makes the document difficult or impossible to read and understand for people with disabilities. Warnings. Content that may make the document difficult to understand for people with disabilities. Tips. Content that people with disabilities can understand, but that could be presented in a different way to improve their experience. And intelligent services. Content that Microsoft automatically attempts to make accessible through artificial intelligence. You can select specific issues and see additional information for guidance on how to remedy any issues the accessibility checker finds. Closing. Accessibility benefits everyone. In an increasingly digital world, access to digital information is essential. Remember to use headings and proper font styles, include alt text on your images, use color properly, use built-in bullets and lists, make your tables accessible, describe your links, and review your work manually with the aid of the accessibility checker. Thank you for taking the time to learn how to improve the accessibility of your Microsoft Word documents. For more information about document accessibility, visit the NCRTM Accessibility Resources page at ncrtm.ed.gov/accessibility-resources, or email the NCRTM staff at ncrtm@neweditions.net. This link and email are available in the YouTube description below. The National Clearinghouse of Rehabilitation Training Materials, NCRTM, is maintained by New Editions Consulting Incorporated and sponsored by the U.S. Department of Education, Rehabilitation Services Administration, RSA, under contract number 919-900-21C0033. However, these contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government.